That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Eleanor the Great, the directorial debut of Scarlett Johansson, which premiered in the Uncertain Regard sidebar at the 2025 Cannes Film Festival. It is being released theatrically, courtesy of Sony Pictures Classics, on September 26th, 2025.
Directorial debut.
Y'all know ScarJo.
And y'all know Scarlett Johansson. What is Eleanor the Great about? After a devastating loss, witty and proudly troublesome Eleanor Morgenstein, 94, tells a tale that takes on a dangerous life of its own. What is your pull quote?
ScarJo's directorial debut softly navigates a moral dilemma via a tonally uneven approach, contemplating how little white lies can have disastrous consequences, suggesting a more meaningful film from a more assured director might have more believably explored its heroine's transgressions without letting her off the hook quite so neatly.
Mine. Eleanor the Great struggles to find the right tone, never matching the power of the stories it tells. Of course, I like June Squibb. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
And I think the subject matter, which is telling the story of a Holocaust survivor, is very powerful.
The screenwriter, Tory Kamen, it's my understanding that it is somehow, or at least partially, based on an experience with her own grandmother.
And I think I was reading like Rotten Tomatoes pull quotes, and June Squibb is getting a lot of shine. But I think the most powerful performance is from
Rita Zohar, who plays Bessie.
Yeah, who is the actual Holocaust survivor. Spoiler.
And that actor was in real life, or is, she's still alive, is a Holocaust survivor.
So the scenes with her character describing her experience feel like in stark contrast to what feels at times to me like the movie Thelma, because June Squibb's playing the same kind of character, like sort of
an irascible old woman.
Yeah, who's charming, even though in this one she's a little more. Because in Thelma she's
sweet in Thelma,
and in this one she's a little prickly.
I mean, I think she's downright overbearing in the first 10 to 15 minutes of this.
I was very worried that, like, I don't like this old lady. But let me tell the basic story. So June Squibb plays Eleanor, and she lives with her best friend Bessie.
In Florida.
When one day Bessie dies. So Eleanor decides to go live with her daughter, played by
Jessica Hecht, Lisa.
So she moves in with her daughter, who is not married but has a teenage son, and they live in Manhattan.
Max.
In a little 2-bedroom apartment. And of course, Eleanor doesn't seem super happy about the change, and her daughter is very busy with her own career. So she signs her mother up for some activities, specifically some events at the Jewish Community Center. So Eleanor goes to the JCC and bumps into a very nice lady who says, "Oh, are you here for the group?" "Yes." "Okay, well, let's go." You know, the first time's awkward, but everyone's super nice. So they sit down, and immediately you know where this is going. She has sat in on a Holocaust survivors group. But Eleanor is not a survivor of the Holocaust. Bessie was. So when it's Eleanor's turn to speak, she just reverts to the stories her best friend told her. It's also very important to know that the reason you said in the first few minutes of the movie, we're a little concerned about Eleanor because she's not a very nice lady. She's bossy and she likes to lie.
Like little white lies.
So immediately you think, oh wow, this lady is really about to tell this lie, pretend to be a Holocaust survivor. But she goes with it. And then we see that there's a young woman named Nina,
played by Erin Kellyman,
who is a journalism student at NYU, who asks if she can join the group because she wants to basically observe and she wants to write something about it. And so everyone agrees she can, and she becomes very fond of Eleanor. They develop a friendship. Nina writes the piece. Her professor thinks it's amazing. They want to interview Eleanor. So now this thing is getting out of control because now Eleanor is at NYU talking to journalism students being recorded. And then Nina's dad is played by Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Roger.
And he is like a notable New York journalist. He has a show actually called The Fabric of New York. He reads the article and loves it and says he wants to do a piece on her. And during this time, Eleanor and Nina are developing a friendship. Eleanor has totally isolated her daughter and grandson from her activities.
Although they don't seem too bothered about that.
They don't seem too bothered at all, but they do mention, like, you never pick up your phone. I don't know where you are all day. What are you doing? Oh, I'm just at the JCC. But Eleanor and Nina have developed a friendship.
They're kind of, it's kind of like Harold and Maude, where they're fulfilling a void for each other, because also Nina's mother has died
Very recently.
6 months previously and was also Jewish.
And the dad, Chiwetel, hasn't mentioned the mom once. Like, he's grieving in his way. So there's a lot of distance between those two. So, like you said, Eleanor and Nina have created this bond. And Eleanor has decided to have her bar mitzvah, which she claims she never had. But that's because she didn't convert to Judaism until the 50s. So, surprise, they are going to film the bar mitzvah for Chiwetel's TV show. And then another surprise is they bring members from the Holocaust survivors group to witness it. So now things get really awkward.
Because Eleanor has wrapped it up, and then she didn't have her bat mitzvah because she was in the camps.
Right. And then her grandson notices that she's kind of like doing something weird by not wanting to ride with him in a cab. And so he follows her and calls his mom. So Eleanor's daughter and grandson show up at the bar mitzvah. And the daughter blows up Eleanor's spot.
Oh, she shuts that down.
She's like, my mom is not a Holocaust survivor. She was born in the Midwest. She did not convert until the 50s. What is going on here? So, of course, everything crumbles. But then in the final act, we get Nina deciding to go see Eleanor, who now lives in a nursing home because her daughter says, I can't really control you.
Resolutions.
They reconnect. Eleanor goes to the Holocaust survivor support group to apologize. And then they tell her, go ahead and finish Bessie's story. Because Eleanor is claiming she did this because she loved her friend so much and she really wanted to...
She missed her.
She missed her and wanted to have her story told. So the final 10 minutes of the film are Bessie, the actor playing Bessie, recounting the final bits of the story of how she escaped the camps, which is extremely powerful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I was moved by those moments, but I think the tonal shifts are jarring. I think the construction of the movie feels a little...
Well, the most awkward thing of the movie you left out of the third act is what Roger does with Eleanor's story.
Oh my goodness. So Nina finds out that her dad wants to go with the story. She's like, how can you do that? You're going to embarrass myself, Eleanor. Like, all you care about is your career. And then they don't have any resolve. She just goes to the station the day he's going to do the story. And he does it. He gets on the news and says...
She walks right in that studio like she's going to mean mug him.
And he's like, yeah, this is about this lady named Eleanor who lied about being a Holocaust survivor. Really, she was telling her friend's Bessie story. And then he all of a sudden makes it about him, which I thought was so awkward. He says, well, I believe that Eleanor did this because of her grief. And I've been grieving. It's about me. My wife died, and I know how it affects people and how you isolate others and feel alone. And I haven't even said my wife's name until just now. And then the story ends.
It was the Tyra Banks approach.
That was the most crunchy part of the story.
Well, yeah, because it's just like, this feels really awkward. And then Bessie gets totally lost in the mix. Although this script does, of course, through her own words, give us the chance to see her story via flashback.
Straight away, I think there could have been a better way to handle this story. I almost feel like June Squibb as Eleanor is like the middleman. Mm-hmm. I almost wish it would have been this young woman, Nina, who is half black, half Jewish, didn't really know her mom's side. Because at one point she has to ask her dad, did my mom have a bar mitzvah?
And she's gay.
And he doesn't know. And she's also a lesbian. I almost wish that she would have just met Bessie. And through this woman telling her very powerful story, she got in touch with her history and maybe softened towards her mother and father and resolved some issues. But the way it is, there are too many people in this...
There's too many things going on.
Yeah.
June Squibb or Eleanor pursuing her own bat mitzvah, and it just seems kind of overly stuffed and cramped, and we can't really get the emotional beats that we need to set the third act ablaze.
You know what I kind of wanted this to feel like is that movie with Morgan Freeman and Florence Pugh.
a Zach Braff film, but a good person.
I don't recall what I thought of it, but I remember how it felt to me.
I think Florence Pugh really gives a great performance in kind of a so-so film.
And she plays a woman who attends AA, like court-ordered AA meetings, and Morgan Freeman is the person who signs off on her, and they kind of have a connection, and other things happen. But yeah, I think because also Eleanor's daughter and grandson, they feel so extraneous. I don't know what purpose they serve.
Exactly. Well, Jessica Hecht, who I kind of enjoyed in this, but she lives, she just cast out into the wind here. She really has nothing to do. It's just like, why isn't this mother and daughter close? How are they gonna try to repair this relationship?
We only get one moment at the end where, after Eleanor's been caught, her daughter comes in and says, I still love you despite what happened. Which I feel like, well, you probably should. I mean, after 90 years, like, this one thing your mom did is the reason you're not going to love her. But then the mom, Eleanor, tells her, like, for so many years you thought you were ugly when in fact you were gorgeous. And then the daughter goes, why did you never tell me that? I thought that was real awkward.
Again, it's putting a nice little bow on all of the jagged edges, and that's what makes this feel kind of inauthentic at the end of the day. But it's like, yeah, I love you, Mom, but I don't want to live with you. But let's explore that more interesting kind of thorny relationship. Instead of just patching it up with Nina, who obviously, even how she comes together with her dad, he gets off the couch after a nap and they hug and they're crying and they're finally going to maybe speak about the dead mother. June Squibb feels also like a continuation of her Thelma character. Mm-hmm. But as we warm up to her and she becomes more likable. But in the element of this aged woman wanting to get her bat mitzvah also reminded me of, I think, a film that handles that kind of story strand much better, Between the Temples, with Carol Kane seeking her old student Jason Schwartzman to do that in a comedy of manners.
So just going through my notes, Bessie, in the opening of the film, we see Eleanor and Bessie go to the grocery store, and Eleanor's being bossy and tells another little white lie that someone calls her out on at the grocery store, when all of a sudden Bessie passes out. And then we cut to Bessie in the hospital, and she seems fit as a fiddle. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden she's dead. I thought that was so awkward.
Oh yeah, it's kind of jarring. Oh, the next sequence after her in the hospital bed is June Squibb packing up her. And I found it interesting, they're in Florida and they're sharing the same room.
Well, also because we see like their kitchen and living room, which looked a little large. Like, I was surprised they had to share a room.
Yeah, but again, it's like some of the details are interesting, but fine. We're chugging along in this narrative.
When Eleanor gets to, I feel like most of the parts with Eleanor until she gets caught feel like a comedy.
Straight up.
Which is awkward to me.
Well, in fact, and you're waiting for that shoe to drop when her transgression is going to be discovered.
Well, I knew the minute she sat in that Holocaust survivors group, like, I don't think this lady, well, they had already said at the grocery store, like, you weren't in the Holocaust, so we already know. But the minute she sits in the support group, it's like, oh my gosh, she's going to lie and say that she was, and she's going to use her homegirl stories to tell us her own. So yeah, the entire time it's like waiting for her to get caught.
Well, just so interesting, it's kind of on the heels of the release of Twinless, which has a very identity theft mechanism.
And using support groups inappropriately. But
this premiered at Cannes, and I remember seeing headlines about Scarlett Johansson speaking about how difficult it was to get financing for a film, starring a 90-year-old woman. So, I mean, it's commendable in that way, but I don't know that she was the right person to convey the story.
Getting back to the funny bit, though, when Eleanor gets to her daughter's apartment in Manhattan, they're all sitting in the kitchen, and Eleanor's talking to the grandson, and she's telling these like embarrassing stories about her daughter that none of us want our parents to tell. Mm-hmm. And Eleanor says to her grandson, do you know what they used to call your mom in school? The class mattress. I thought that was too much. I just thought that was too much.
That's probably the best clue we received to understand why this mother and daughter don't speak to one another.
Well, but yeah, I mean, I agree, but I don't think it's enough. Like, I guess I don't understand why paint Eleanor as kind of like a rude lady, but she's not vile.
A rude, selfish lady, yes.
Yeah, but she's not the worst.
Well, she's kind of a henpecker. Immediately she's going into like, why do you live here? What's so wonderful about it? Like basically she's telling her daughter that her life is a waste of time.
Subpar. And I think the problem with that is, like you already mentioned, when we get to the resolve and Eleanor apologizing and getting caught and then apologizing, it feels very thin to me. Because I don't necessarily believe that this lady initially started this lie because she wanted to tell her best friend's story. I think she's just accustomed to lying on the spot. She likes attention, and she didn't think it was going to go further than that.
Exactly. And again, and maybe no harm in that, because if those people never found out that she wasn't telling the truth, it's not malicious. She's not trying to receive any kind of gain for it.
No, and maybe I could have believed that through the process she understood that what she was doing was an homage to her friend, but it doesn't feel like that by the end.
That does not feel
I feel like
at
I'm
all.
being told that that's what it was, but I don't feel that.
I feel like that's the best way that she could explain it to this group to, not hurt their feelings. But they all react quite well to her.
More funny stuff that I felt was just like tonally felt so off from the other side of the story is that Nina and Eleanor are having lunch at a diner, and we hear them talking, and sometimes it's like we see them talking and sometimes it's over other visuals. But at one point you hear Eleanor say, I think about sex. I know people don't think I do at this age, which is an interesting conversation to have between these two women of varying ages. Although again, within this subject matter, it feels odd. And then all of a sudden Nina says, well, I'm gay. And Eleanor's cool with it and they have a moment.
It's like, oh, you're really open about that.
I don't know. It just all feels like I don't understand the purpose. It feels like maybe three different stories are happening, like competing against one another.
I agree. And then, we have an expert cinematographer, Hélène Louvart, who, we've reviewed some of her work in Disco Boy and The Lost Daughter. Karim Anouz likes to use her, as does Alicia Rohrwacher. I think she's an excellent cinematographer. But I felt everything about this film looked quite standard. Even the trip to Coney Island, nothing really popped out visually, which is not something I usually think about with the cinematographer.
I agree. I hate to do it, but someone's going on my worst hair list. I believe it's the leader of the support group.
The leader of the pack. Yes.
Her character's name is April, Elaine Bromka. She had on one of those like Mary J. Blige, No More Drama combo specials where it's like
wig on wig.
It looks like she's like maybe her natural silver hair with like a red topper. I don't know. It looked terrible.
It's a wig on wig crime.
Sorry, girl.
We don't want that.
There's a moment when, is it their ride to Coney Island, Nina and Eleanor, where Vanessa Williams saved the best for last?
Yeah, it's such an odd.
That was an odd choice for this Uber ride.
I guess it's just on the radio, but what message are? Yeah. It's nothing. I guess we don't need to search and dig for answers in every moment.
Another tonally awkward moment is the rabbi who's going to, I don't know these rituals and terms, I guess, perform the bar mitzvah.
Steven Singer.
He's kind of quirky and definitely reads more comedic. And then he has his meeting with Eleanor. And usually when he's doing this, it's with someone much younger. And he would sort of teach them the teachings of something that they have to read during the service. But of course, Eleanor already knows it. And it's about
Jacob and Esau, the brothers.
So the rabbi says, well, I'm not going to make you sit through my explanation. Why don't you explain to me what the story's about? And it all boils down to her saying, oh, so Jacob basically
stole his brother's identity.
And that was okay. And the rabbi's like, well, I never thought of it that way, but yeah. And so it was okay because he didn't have bad intentions. Yeah, I think intention is key, and so yeah.
But doesn't he say this is about truth? It's not about deception. It's about what is the truth in the situation.
I didn't like that scene because the tone was weird, and then it's so obvious what's happening.
It is on the nose, people, which is okay sometimes. Also, Steven Singer's a character actor you've seen in tons of stuff, but he was giving me R.L. Stine vibes.
Okay.
If you remember what R.L. Stine looked like on the cover of those Goosebump books.
Eleanor only has one moment that I felt fit what I expected once we realized what the story is that when she's found out, of course, Nina's upset. They're at the bar mitzvah. the daughter has blown up Eleanor's spot. So Nina grabs her coat and pocketbook and makes a break for it. And her dad follows her and is like, come on, let's go. Tells Eleanor, like, stop, don't even try to talk to her. And Eleanor says, it wasn't a lie. It just wasn't my story.
That's a lie. That is a lie.
And I think, like, that was maybe what I was expecting from her character. More time spent with her trying to explain why. The resolve comes too quick. I
agree. And the thing about the bat mitzvah scene, I think Erin Kellyman has a nice moment because she gives a little speech talking about what this relationship with Eleanor meant to her. And I genuinely thought she was that was a very nice moment in her performance. As was Jessica Hecht, because her shutting that down as soon as she realizes
that was a good moment.
Because there's a lot of people that, you know, for the sake of not making a scene, will just quietly wait till they can, you know.
Oh.
I like that she shut that down immediately.
Speaking of that, we didn't mention how she gets caught. During the bar mitzvah, like, it's in process, Chiwetel's character, who's like a legit journalist, one of his assistants or like the producer comes to him and says, hey, one of our assistants did some research and found this story about Eleanor and Bessie. Mm-hmm. And so then we see the article and then it's very clear that Bessie is the Holocaust survivor, not Eleanor. And so you see on Chiwetel's face like, OMG, what am I going to do? No, you don't have to do anything, girl, because...
it's about to implode right in front of your eyes.
I feel like I sound much more negative than I felt watching it. It was easy to sit through.
I think it's a fine first film. I think that it is a very square, standard film in a lot of ways with the subject matter that suggests it needs to be anything but.
Right.
I'm surprised, you know, because of Scarlett Johansson's fame, you know, secured a slot at the Cannes Film Festival. You know, this feels like Sundance Fair for sure in a premiere section. I mean, you know, this just... to premiere at that film festival feels like you're just kind of taking up space a little bit. And I agree, this film is, hard to get made, but this is not art house by any means.
What would you give Eleanor the Great?
2.5.
I think it's okay. I would give it 2.5 out of 5. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.